What's up guys, Hopper One here with English Covey, and we are going to do the bug of the month, which is the blue wing olives, and I'm going to do a couple bugs for you. A Nymph, which is going to be the Jedi Master, and a Dun, which is going to be a CDC Comparadun. So we'll get started and I'll show you those now. So I'm going to get started with this, and in the vise I got a straight eye hook, like a TMC 101 Daiichi 1110, and olive thread here. A-dot, just get that started. For the materials, I'm going to start with some tailing materials, which is, in this case, a Coq de Leon feather here. So I just need a few fibers off that feather. And I'm going to peel those off and tie that in so it's somewhat sparse. And this is going to be a real thin Baetis Nymph pattern. And so once I tie that in, just kind of pull to length. You don't want those overly long. And so olive dun thread, uni olive dun 8/0. So I'm just going to layer that on there. I'm going to untwist my thread as I go. And then the next material I use on this fly is clear slim rib. So I'm just going to tie that in and capture it. Once I tie it in with several good wraps, I'm going to pull and snug that up. And again, I want to untwist thread here just so you have a flat layer of thread so you can work, wrap the slim rib on that, and it's not going to be lumpy or bumpy or anything like that. So I'm going to come back to where I tied in my tails, put a couple clean wraps there, good nice solid wraps, and work my way back up. So I'm going to put in several wraps, just like I would like wire, of this material here. So I'm going to stretch, first wrap, and then just kind of continue up. As I go up with this material, I'll relax it just a little bit to make sure it's not getting pulled too tight. So once I'm up here, a couple wraps over to secure, and then stretch and cut that material out. So once I'm here, I just need to put a thorax, wing case, and thorax. So I'm going to get some black, medium black holographic tinsel, and I'm going to lay that right up on top, and just try to make sure it's right up on top on center. You can always rotate, look, and see. My thorax is going to be my thread, so I'm about 45% roughly on that hook shank, so just want to make sure I'm not too short on the thorax and not too short on that wing case as well. So the next material I'm going to use is one single strand of Midge body thread. This is sold and distributed by Montana Fly Company, so all I did was fold that over, and I'm going to tie it in as if I were tying in antenna on the front of this fly. So I'm going to move my thread forward to behind the eye, a couple good wraps, and then work back towards the middle of the hook. Once I have that secured, cut, get that out of there. Put a few more wraps just to cover up the butts that I just cut off, and build that thorax up a little bit, and then proceed that thread forward to right behind the eye of the hook. And once you're there, you can split those strands and pull one strand towards you. Second strand goes to the other side. So I have two legs coming each side off of the thorax. Pull that wing case forward, couple wraps, and I use minimal wraps right here, so I get one wrap, pull that snug, second wrap, pull it back, and then two wraps just to secure. So a total of 4 wraps in there. Minimal bulk. Cut this off. Can. There. Untwist your thread a little bit just so it's not corded up. You want it just a little bit flat, and just a wrap or two. And we're coming in with the whip finish here. I'm just going to put a couple, probably 3. And snug it up, come in, clip, So we still have our legs there. And we're going to come in and clip this. Well, actually, before we do so, I'm going to hit a little bit of UV resin right up on top. And this one I like the UV clear fly finish from Loon, the thin material. Only other thing I would do maybe with a black marker is hit that right up on top just to blend it in with the top of the wing case, which is black. But we're just going to hit this with the UV resin right now. Make sure you get some on the thread wraps. That helps to reinforce, and then we're going to hit it with the Loon plasma light. We just need a few seconds on that light and that's it, and we're done right there. So once we're back here, we're just going to gather those legs a little bit longer than the thorax and then just trim. Once we're here, all I do is just flick that and those legs bounce out, and that's the completed Jedi Master right there. So size 20 in this case. I fish them size 20, 22s, and usually my favorite color is this olive dun that I'm tying here. You can tie them in gray, you can tie them in red if you wanted to, but I do prefer the olive dun color in this size, in this color. So that's the Jedi Master. Alright. We're going to do a CDC Comparadun now, which is one of my favorite flies for fishing a blueing hatch, especially when those fish are eating on the surface. It's a fairly simple fly to tie, but you do need some good quality materials, and you do need to tie a few before you get it figured out. But it's fairly easy once you get going, so we're going to get that started right now. So, going with the olive dun thread that I used in the previous fly. 8/0 thread, similar hook, which is in this case the Daiichi 1110 straight eye, and then the materials for the tailing is the dark dun micro Fibbetts, so just a couple of those, and we're going to split those tails, and so we just need a couple of those to get off of this, tie them in, and we're going to come here and split them. So tie them in on top, 3 wraps, and then I can come to adjust the length. I don't need them super long, just need them to split. A couple wraps here into the bend opposite the barb. I'm going to throw a wrap behind and prop those up. If I need to adjust, this is the last time I can do it, so I'll pull just a little, tighten that up, snug it up a little, a couple wraps right on top, and then with my fingers or even just my scissors I can try to split those a little bit. That way they're not stuck together. So once I do that, I can pull one towards me, pull that towards me and split. So I'm going to come between them, grab the inside, and make a couple wraps. Now I push the other one away, pull the near one to me, split the thread between the two, a couple wraps on the hook shank, so now I have the split tails. That's the easiest way that I've found to do that. It works great, and it keeps the back end fairly clean. So I'm going to cut these off. Same thing, I'm going to untwist my thread a little bit just to make sure I have a flatter working foundation to work with. Now, CDC is great for the smaller bugs, and I prefer it because you can get a nice clean feather that's nice and full and tie that in, pull it to length, and adjust it to where you need it to be. Sometimes you might have to use 2 feathers to achieve what you're trying to do, but in this case this is a nice clean full feather right here. So we're going to tie that in. We do have a little bit of a curve to this depending on which way you tie it in. So I'm going to tie it in with that curve facing upwards. That way it's easier for that wing to be propped up. So once I'm here, I'm going to put my thread down where I want that wing to be, and I'm going to do 3 wraps. So it's fairly long right now. I want to make sure I have some space right here behind the eye, and then the length I want it when I pull this back going to be about the hook shank. So I'm fairly long right now. Pull up, put a wrap or two there. Then I can pull on that to shorten the wing overall. Now, also want to check, make sure I have a little space there that I can put a couple wraps here. When I push that up, so I'm still fairly long, I need to pull, measure, pull, measure right there. So that's where I want to be on my wing. So I'm going to lock that down with a few wraps here and prop that wing up a little bit. Once I have that tied in, I'm going to go ahead and twist my feather, come in with my scissor blade, and get a clean cut on the back side of that wing. So then I'm going to tie those butts down and build a small little ramp so it's not so steep. And then I got to come in with my dubbing, which is going to be just some olive or olive brown coloration of superfine dubbing. So I'm just going to pull a little bit of that off. The lighter the better, so just a thin amount of superfine dubbing is all you need. So I'm going to start that tight, work my way down, and it barely looks like I have dubbing on there, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to work back, throw one behind the tails to prop them up a little bit more, and then just work my way up that hook shank, filling in any gaps that I need to. If there are any lumps or anything, I'm just going to fill in. So I'm going to end right there. I do need a little bit more dubbing, so it's always okay to add more. It's harder to subtract. So we're just going to do this, dub that, and I'm going to fill in that gap right in front of the wing here a little bit more and try to prop it up. While I'm doing that, I have to adjust and use my fingernail to kind of spread those fibers out. So I'm just going to come here, kind of hide it a little bit, and as I do that, I just kind of smash down on that feather to push it with my fingernail so it does splay out a little bit more. So if you have it tied in nicely, that'll work. So there, it's splayed out just a little bit for me. That's what I'm looking for. So again, just now I'm going to kind of figure eight it. I can always add just a little bit more, again, just to fill in those gaps, and then once we do that, we're going to be done. So I'm going to push stuff out of the way, and again, just like I said, figure eight some of those just to kind of lock it in right up in there. A very small amount of dubbing, so we're not doing anything too heavy. So once we're there, we're done. Let me see right there, 3 turn whip finish times 2, and we are done with that. Flip that off, check our tails, make sure they're clean. So what we should have is a fairly full wing on that, propped up, and that represents those duns on the water. Once they hatch, as they ride the surface, they're going to come down, and as they're drying their wings off, they're going to be right in the lanes where those fish are, and those fish will come up and eat those. So that's one of my favorite flies to tie during the hatch, and it's just fun. You put a little bit of that frog's fanny or any of that loon powder, loon dust on them. You can use that on the CDC. That helps to repel the water, keeps them floating for longer. These flies are great. You can catch probably 2 fish on them. You might have to change it out after that just because of the CDC, but very natural and realistic looking fly on the water. So it's one of my favorites, and anytime there is a hatch on the water, I'm going to be tying on one of these patterns. Thanks for tying with me.